Finally, I can see a tribe of Kiwis. Finally. Kia ora, Kiwis. It's time to wake up. There's a lot going on here in New Zealand, and I'm wondering, do we all consent to what is happening right now? Now the question is, does your silence indicate your consent, or is the government trying to manufacture your consent? Now, in regards to the COVID vaccinations, and especially the mRNA vaccine, voluntary informed consent is the only thing that should be mandatory.
One final message from me. This morning I spent some time signing out correspondence, as we do as ministers, and I will have to say I was alarmed at the number of letters that I've received from people concerned that the government would be making COVID-19 vaccinations compulsory. This is a direct result of deliberate misinformation that's being spread through social media. The government is not making COVID-19 or any other vaccinations compulsory. We will, of course, when we have a vaccination available, be encouraging people to take the vaccination because it will help to keep everybody safe. But the government is not going to be making the vaccination compulsory.
Now, there can be no argument that Pfizer's mRNA vaccine now in New Zealand is anything other than a experimental medical intervention, more akin to gene therapy or cellular therapy than a vaccination. The safety trials are not yet concluded by their own documents, and it has never before been used on human beings, and there is no mid or long-term data in regards to what may happen downstream after individuals take the vaccine.
Really understanding the safety at gigantic scale across all age ranges, pregnant, male, female, undernourished, existing comorbidities, it's very, very hard. And that actual decision of, okay, let's go and give this vaccine to the entire world, governments will have to be involved because there will be some risk and indemnification needed before that can be decided on.
Now, there's been a very clear precedent in history regarding informed consent when it comes to experiments on humans. And this is called the Nuremberg Code. And this came about after an American military trial after World War II. Now, the Nuremberg Code is made up of 10 parts. And I'll read you from the first part. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved as to enable them to make an understanding and enlightened decision. This latter element requires that before the acceptance of an affirmative decision by the experimental subject, there should be made known to them the nature, duration, and purpose of the experiment, the method and means by which it is to be conducted, all inconveniences and hazards reasonably to be expected, and the effects upon his health or person which may possibly come from his participation in the experiment. The duty and responsibility for ascertaining the quality of the consent rests upon each individual who initiates, directs, or engages in the experiment. It is a personal duty and responsibility which may not be delegated to another with impunity. Now, I want to point your attention to the Public Service Commission website, where they have guidance for the COVID-19 workforce vaccinations. Now I'm looking at the last modified version, 2nd of March 2021. Now in the introduction, it says COVID-19 vaccines will play a critical role in protecting New Zealanders' health and well-being. On 3rd of February 2021, MedSafe, the Medicines Safety Authority, approved the first COVID-19 vaccine for use in New Zealand. It has been robustly assessed to ensure it meets international standards and local requirements for quality and safety. It should be pointed out that the Pfizer vaccine only has provisional approval here in New Zealand, and in the US, for example, it only has emergency use authorization, which comes about via the PrEP Act, meaning it's shortcut many of the normal safety standards, so I'm not sure this qualifies as robust international standards. Now later in the document, under the heading Expect, set an expectation that all staff should be vaccinated. And the bullet points, 4 of them, continue. Communicate an expectation that all staff who are able to be vaccinated will be vaccinated. Appropriate leaders should role model the expectation of being vaccinated early in the program in line with priorities and the Ministry of Health rollout strategy. For at-risk workforces, consider introducing a requirement for new employees to be vaccinated into employment agreements by agreement with any relevant unions. And ask staff to agree to provide their employer with information on whether they have been vaccinated. Ensure employees are aware of what information will be provided, how it will be used, and the purpose for which the information is being collected. Now, under the next heading has support. Ensure vaccines are available to all staff. Provide clear options for those who are not vaccinated. Now there's some subheadings here. Vaccines should be administered in the workplace where possible. There's also a heading here for those staff who are not vaccinated. Now, to be fair, it's not saying anyone should be fired, but it's certainly stating that they could be downgraded from their job, perhaps given suitable alternative duties, temporary redeployment, paid special leave perhaps. But if we go back to the Nuremberg Code,
we suddenly find ourselves in a situation where being forced to take a medication against our will seems more likely every day, every hour. And by forced, let me be clear. It is being forced if a person is coerced or put under pressure. The definition of forced is not only if you are tied down with a gun to your head. This is not my opinion. The legal definition of being forced in terms of medical experimentation originated with the Nuremberg Code and is as follows. The voluntary consent of the human being is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise a free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion. Being forced includes having your employment and paycheck threatened, and I would argue includes being blocked from participating in normal society.
Surely if we look closer at the Public Service Commission's points, soft coercion looks to be at play. There's an expectation all staff should be vaccinated, that leaders should be vaccinated early in the program, and that there's a requirement for new employees to be vaccinated. In other words, no vaccine, no job in the future for people joining. Also asking them to give up their right to privacy, saying they should provide their employer with information. Of course, vaccines are a private choice. Now, thankfully, the government has said they won't be mandated, so therefore it's perfectly legal and appropriate to keep your vaccination status private. Now, do we really wish to be a part of a apartheid state where we create a class division in society, those who have had the vaccine and those who haven't? Do we really want to be part of something like that? And for those who are using coercive measures on the government employees, and for that matter anyone who thinks to do the same on the general public, should do well to reflect on the Nuremberg Code, and that history didn't look kindly on those actions way back in the past. Rightio Kiwis, if you like this, press the like button, share around to your friends, and also the links are in the video header. Oh, the gold is what we're told. Just make money, then grow old. Now the game is up, I see through it all. The banks rob us blind and let us fall. But finally, I can see a tribe of Kiwis. Finally, get off your knees and live the last days on your feet. Finally, I can see how it is, the sleight of hand. Finally, we can see if we open our eyes, the shady plan. Finally, get off your knees and live the last days on your feet. See the truth and live those last days debt free.